Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lattes on My Mind.
I'm Hannah.
And I'm Felina. What are we doing here today, Hannah?
Well, I stole the show again. We're doing Diana Part 2.
Princess Diana Part 2?
Princess Diana Part 2.
I'm excited. Let's go.
Just in case you didn't catch last week's episode, we did a Princess Diana Part 1, which was about her life and her marriage. And this week we're doing Diana Part 2. Yay. And this one's mostly about her death and the conspiracies surrounding that. So last week we got up to the point where we were talking about, her divorce from Charles and how she had a new lover named Dodi and leading up to her death. To tell the story kind of fast. It was August 31st, 1997, and they flew into Paris because Dodi was helping his dad with some sort of his business. His dad owned the Ritz hotel that they were staying at in Paris. He was a rich millionaire. His name is Mohammed Al Fayed. And he is a billionaire or whatever. So it was thought that the royal family would be unhappy about this, first of all, because Dodi was an Egyptian Muslim. So for the British crown, they were we can't have the possible Prince William having a stepfather. That is, even though he wasn't they were a
little racist.
A little racist and a little what do you call it when it's religion? I guess just is there a term for that? You're against someone's religion or something like that?
There is, but I can't think of it.
I can't think of it either. So that was suspicions. Now they never said for sure.
Right, they're not going to just come out and be the royal family doesn't want you to marry this
because
guy
you're not.
He doesn't align with our religion. But.
Yeah, exactly. So it's but the thing is he wasn't even necessarily a practicing Muslim. He just was
raised.
But even so, first of all, you should accept anyone.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, not but whatever their religion is, but even so, if they were so strict about it, it's he wasn't even necessarily practicing, if you want to be that way about it. But this was speculation, obviously. The royal family's not going to admit to that, obviously. But so there was speculation by the father that they didn't like this. So Mohammed Al Fayed has done a lot of work that there is something more going on here, with my behind the scenes of what happened to my son and my daughter. So because it was thought that he was going to Paris and he was going to pick up a ring there and propose, but they hadn't been I don't think, some people were no, because they hadn't been together that long and Diana wasn't ready to marry. But then people close, the dad and even Diana's butler were yeah, I think he's buying a ring next, because he had gifted her with all this jewelry. And supposedly the butler was oh yeah, what's next, a ring, essentially. So, but it's all speculation. No one knows because it didn't happen.
Right.
And there was no evidence. I guess there's no evidence of him. Well, that's what I was thinking. They're if he was going to purchase the ring, wouldn't his dad or someone know the order, it was being placed or something for the ring being made? You think he'd find that proof? I don't know. But
if he hadn't actually done it yet.
Yeah, that's true.
Then
that's true.
If he had planned on doing it, but he hadn't actually.
Maybe he was going to place the order.
Yeah, and then he didn't ever have the chance, because didn't he also pass away?
Yes, he died in the car accident. So they're at the Ritz Motel and hotel. Sorry, I get this. They're confusing.
Motel hotel.
They're planning on going to have dinner that night, and she was going back to England next day. She called her butler. I watched this hour-long documentary thingy on YouTube, and it had her butler, his name is Paul Burrell, I think his name is, and he was her butler for 10 years. And then I had another guy named, what was his name? Michael Cole, and he's a former Al Fayed family spokesperson. I guess if you're a billionaire, you have a spokesperson for your affairs or something.
Wow.
I don't really know.
That's fancy.
But them two were actually talking in this documentary. So he was talking about how she called him, the butler, I want to come home, I want to see my sons, I don't want to be in Paris, I want to come home the next day, can you push things back for me, because he was taking care of all her schedule and whatnot.
Her affairs.
Right.
Not like affairs as in like,
yeah,
not like that.
Not like those kind of affairs, but like her affairs. So he was like, she was wanting to come home, and she called me and like made me promise that I was going to be there and stuff. And he was like, it's kind of weird that she like made me promise, like, promise me you'll be there. Promise me you'll be there. And he's like, I'll be there. And she's like, no, like, say it.
What happened?
Yeah. She's like, no, say you'll be there.
Her butler?
Yes. She said this to her butler, like, the night when she called him, like, before, saying, we're in Paris. I want to come home, but, like, it won't be till the next day. So she was like, yeah, just promise me that you'll be there. Like, it was very weird. He's like, it was just weird. She wanted me to say it. Like, say it to him.
Yeah.
Like, I promise I'll be there, like, when you get there. So I don't know what that was about. I don't know if she just felt unsafe. And, like, he said, like, all the time she'd be paranoid. Like, she was convinced she was being listened to through the phones. Like, so that there was stuff in her car.
Maybe she was paranoid. Like, promise you'll be there because I need you to look out for something.
Yes.
Like,
there was something going on that, like, she was scared for her life all the time. Like,
well, yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
She's the first one to divorce the future king.
Right.
Like,
right. Like,
and live and keep her head, you know? Like,
and was like a controversial in the royal family's eyes, a woman.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't, you know, obeying demure, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, she was like a gentle and like quiet and kind person, but she
wasn't going to just sit there and let someone roll over her.
You got this.
Woo!
Right.
Roll all over her.
She was going to stand up for, you know, her cause and what she believed in.
She was good grief. She was quiet and sweet, but she wasn't a doormat.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. The best of both worlds.
Yes.
But so they were going to go to dinner in Paris, and then like the paparazzi like were like on relentless. So they decided to change their plans, and they even like were like, let's go out and let's take another car, like a different car. So they go out and the paparazzi still find them. So supposedly the story goes is that their driver, Henri Paul, sped up and to get away from the paparazzi, and they went through the the Ponte d'Alma bridge in Paris. I can't say
a bridge.
French words. But they went through it, and supposedly he got up to like 100 kilometers per mile, which I don't know what that is. But it's fast.
Miles per hour.
It was fast to go through like an overpass.
It was a really fast. Yeah.
And supposedly they lose control and he crashes into a pillar and they all pass away. There was a bodyguard who survived, I think, at the time. I don't know what happened to him. I haven't got to look into that yet. But
he done got too.
Right. But the driver died and Dodi died immediately. And Princess Diana originally survived. They got her out. And she passed away in the hospital like 4 hours later.
It's a little sauce.
Yes, it is. And we're going to talk about that. She was only 36 when she passed away, by the way, which is so young and so sad. One of the biggest reasons why I guess there's so many conspiracies surrounding it is because Dodi's father, Mohammed Al Fayed, was very adamant that like this was not an accident.
Something was suspicious about the whole situation.
Yeah, and he like kept fighting and fighting to be like, they did something to my son and they did something to my daughter. Now,
so just to clarify, he was calling Princess Diana.
He said like I don't know. I saw like a clip of him saying his daughter, so I just assumed that he was very like
he was calling it.
Yeah,
he was calling Diana his daughter because
they were dating.
They were dating and probably going to be engaged soon.
Yeah.
And Okay.
So I thought he said daughter. Maybe he said Dodi, and I misunderstood. But anyway, he said like they were trying to get her and stuff like that. So he was like, anyway, so they accused essentially the paparazzi and the driver as the cause of the incident. So they claimed in 1999 that the driver had been under the influence of alcohol and antidepressants, and that it was a drunk driving accident.
But don't you think that Princess Diana
would be in a car with a driver?
Would have enough good sense to see this driver is
very drunk.
Something's not right. I don't know what it is. Even if it wasn't like drunk or
especially with her being so paranoid.
Don't you think that she would only get in a car if she knew it was safe?
Yes, I do.
I think she would too.
I think because she had her butler like looking under the car, in the floorboards, like 4 things. She said, like, she would say, like, oh, look under the car. Like, do you see anything unusual? Like, things like that. Now, granted, they could have been in a rush. You know, sometimes that just happens. And they were in a rush. But,
like, okay, lady, we've checked under hundreds of cars at this point. You're fine. I'm just going to sweep it and act like I looked and I didn't.
Right.
Or maybe he was in on it. Who knows?
Exactly. So there's so many conspiracies because it just doesn't seem right. Like in 2008, they said that Henri Paul was drunk and that the paparazzi were also to blame because they were relentlessly chasing them.
Right.
And that's why in the first place, they had like sped up and gotten the accident. Like
they were clearly trying to get away, but you were still pursuing them.
Right. Obviously, she already thinks that, that her bodyguard was killed. So in 2004,
her lover,
yeah, who apparently she called like one of the greatest loves of her life. So I don't know who was, but they founded this thing called Operation Paget in 2004, which was like to specifically address conspiracies surrounding Princess Diana's death.
Because there's so many.
Exactly. They obviously ruled the conspiracies false. And there's like a report, like a 871-page report of where they did, like for 3 years, they did this thing. Like I think it was in England, obviously. Because like the French had to do their investigation. And then once they were done, the British did their investigation because it happened in Paris. So it was like the French did it first, then in Paris. But so they ruled the conspiracies pretty much all false. However, Paul Burrell and this guy, Michael Cole, and then this other historian guy, I don't know his name. I could not hardly understand half the things he said. But he's like written a book that's called like the Princess Diana Conspiracy or something, this guy.
I want it.
Right? I kind of want to read it too. But they're all in this interview like, they all ruled this false. But however, here's like, so I'm going to tell like from their perspective in a second about the crash. But some of the conspiracies are obviously, they thought that, she was pregnant when she got in an accident. Oh. And that's why like it was such a big deal because, she had a son with him and like to the royal family. It would have
looked really bad. Yeah.
They would have a stepson technically, I guess, who was, half Muslim, half Egyptian, which is not an issue.
Because she's not royal. She just has royal... You know what I'm saying? Like, whatever. Okay. Right. How about you don't be a piece of crap?
Right. So...
Putting it lightly.
To put it lightly. Now, some of her close friends claim that this wasn't true, like that she was having like her normal cycles and like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That she had not like said that she was pregnant in any way, that she was being careful, et cetera, and like the forensic expert that like in Operation Paget who like examined her stomach contents like after it, like was like, no, she wasn't pregnant.
Stomach contents.
And that seemed a little weird to me. I was like, what?
Now hold on.
What does that have to do with what?
Your stomach contents don't determine if you're pregnant or not.
That's what the article said, Felita.
Okay.
I was confused too. But
did he examine all of her?
Did you check? Now there's some weird things also that went on with her body. We'll talk about in just a second.
Uh-oh.
But anyway, also some people thought that Henri Paul was like part of the conspiracy, like the driver, like he was like either an informant for MI6 or like an informant for like a more like French security, and that he was like, but I was like, why would he get in the accident with them though if he was like in on it? You know what I mean? Like, why would he like risk his life? And also a friend of his had said like he wouldn't have, if he wouldn't have been drunk because he wouldn't have put like, he knew him and he wouldn't have put like anyone in harm's way.
Right. He wouldn't have been driving around.
Right. And also there is footage from the Ritz Hotel, like security footage of him walking around like in the lobby, like right before they left.
And he was fine.
Yes. And they said like if he had been like the level of drunk they said he was like two or three times over the legal limit in like England and France.
Been able to tell.
You would have been able to tell. And like in the video you can see he like leans down, he like ties his shoe and like he's like walking around normal, like interacting with people. And like you can tell when someone's drunk, like
it's a little bit of a sway,
right? Especially if it's that much, because they were acting like it was like a lot, like it would have been a lot. So
they were acting like it was so much that in the video you would have been able to tell,
right?
He was intoxicated,
right? Because like even I think like the coroner who later like was involved in the court case couldn't explain like the carbon monoxide level in his blood, because he was like, that wouldn't really like, he couldn't explain how, what was it? Gosh, I forgot. But they were like, okay, well, how could he have been this drunk? And he was like acting normal, and they didn't really like have an explanation for it. So that seems kind of weird to me. Like, I didn't quite understand, like, I don't understand like how much carbon monoxide or whatever it is in your blood, but apparently it was a lot. That's all I know.
So you think it was like carbon monoxide poisoning?
I don't know. Well, maybe from like the car, right?
Yeah.
Car accident. That could have been.
Could have been.
Anyway, people also claim that the seatbelts had been tampered with.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that one.
Yeah. But they were like, no. Actually, like, they examined the car and there wasn't anything found that was suggest they were tampered with. They actually weren't wearing their seatbelts. Which, me again, like me and you saying, like, Princess Diana, like, what? Her being like the sensible person.
Why would she not wear her seatbelt if she was so paranoid and so...
Or especially if they were getting up to that speed, you think they would have been like, let's like, you know...
Right.
Throw
I'm
these on.
gonna be honest, sometimes I don't always wear my seatbelt, but then...
I'm gonna cut this out.
Like, if like, you know, we're getting on the highway or the interstate or like... Or if Marshall just speeds up because he likes to freak me out sometimes. Not like to a dangerous extent.
Just put this on.
I'll just be like, I'm just gonna... Or like people are driving weird around me. I'll be like, I'm just gonna click it.
And sometimes seatbelts can be dangerous too, as we know.
Sometimes I can. I knew a guy who...
Yeah,
I knew a guy who he wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and the fire guy had to like cut him out of the car, and he was literally like, if you would have been wearing your seatbelt, you would have died.
Wear your seatbelts, everyone. We're not saying not to wear your seatbelts,
yes,
but
wear your seatbelts.
We're saying
but there's like those fluke instances.
Yeah, where it's like if you had been wearing your seatbelt.
Yeah, this would have been really bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now they're also, the thing that gets me too is like the cameras in the tunnel didn't capture the accident, and they were like,
didn't capture or were tampered.
Exactly. So apparently they couldn't like manipulate it to see, like, the view that they needed, and like all they could see was like a light when they like moved it, like a yellow light. And they're like, I guess one of the other cameras was in operation at that time. I don't know how they worked. Maybe it was different in the 80s, but I'm like, wait, what? Or not in the 80s. I guess it was 97 when she passed away. But like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, you think that what do you mean? Like, one was being operated? Like, aren't they all operating at the same time?
Yeah, shouldn't they all?
I was confused by that.
Operating?
I was like, but it didn't see the accident.
It's a little weird.
There's 14 cameras.
14 cameras and none of them caught what happened.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
That sounds like someone turned them off or deleted the
footage.
and
he was like, it's not that they weren't working. I'm like, are you sure? Are you sure? And some people say, obviously, the paparazzi were in on the plot. Like, they chased her so much to the point where they sped up. I'm like, I don't believe that the paparazzi would... Obviously, they were being absolutely insensitive, but...
Well, I've heard that it was MI6 disguised as paparazzi.
Oh, I didn't get that one.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of more sense, because...
Knowing that she would try and get away.
Yeah, because she hated it.
And that's why they continued to chase, is because...
Okay.
They had tampered with some stuff that they needed to, like, trigger
ensure that it...
Yeah.
Okay. So, we know about that. But, like, if it was actually the paparazzi, I don't think so, because here's the reason why the paparazzi were so crazy with Diana anyway, because the first time that they got a picture of Dodie and Diana together, like, one of the paparazzi sold it to the British newspaper for, like, 250,000 pounds. So, like, getting a picture of them was worth it. Was worth a lot of money. Yeah. So this is why it was, like, so, like, crazy, because if they got the right picture, they could sell it for big bucks. Mm-hmm. So that's one of the reasons why surrounding it, like, that people went so crazy at, like, the paparazzi, like, all the time.
Well, but that's, like, furthering their thing too, though, is...
Yeah.
Well, maybe they were so crazed, they needed that money.
They needed that, yeah.
That they were just like, let's just follow.
But also... I think, like, obviously it was halfway caused by the paparazzi, but I don't think that they were in maliciously. I don't think they were
in on the plot, no.
Yes, because, like, why would they, like, risk their livelihood? Because technically they're, like, losing money by, you know.
Well, but honestly.
Unless it was MI6.
If it was paparazzi chasing them, where are the pictures?
Exactly.
Like, I understand, like...
Where are the pictures of the actual...
Of the accident, you know, like, because that could be worth a lot of money, too, which is awful to say, but it's like, that could be worth a lot of money, too, you know, like...
Well, they're probably going to say they went in the tunnel, you know, so we couldn't see them.
You can follow them into the tunnel.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah. Now, the documentary I was watching, also was like, you know, the royal family has, like, in the history, they've gotten rid of people that are in the way.
Yeah.
They have gotten rid of people that are in the way. So why is this so far-fetched? Because some people are like, this is just crazy, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's really not. If she was, like, you know, making a scene, and if she was, like, you know,
causing a fuss,
and if she was going to have, the boys were going to have a new father-in-law, you know, like, oh my gosh. Sorry, Suki's wagging her tail in her sleep.
She's dead asleep, and her tail is just
cute.
wagging, like, tongue out and everything.
So cute. After the accident, reports were released originally that were conflicting. They said, oh, Diana is not that hurt. And then some were like, oh, Diana's extremely hurt. Okay?
Yeah.
It was said that the ambulance that took her to the hospital. Now, in France, apparently it's different. They get you stable. They, like, do treatment. And then they get you in the ambulance. And then they take you. Whereas in America, it's like, get them in, go.
Yeah.
Like, let's get them there. Like, obviously, they're doing things on the way there.
Like, we can stabilize them there. But
right. And we can try to stabilize them in the thing. But, like, let's get them to the hospital.
Yeah.
Because as people know, you can't tell if anything internal is going on until you get them to the hospital.
Right.
Okay. So, first of all, they stabilize her. She's going into cardiac arrest. So they take her, apparently, according to Michael Cole and Paul Barrel,
however you say it,
and Mohammed Al Fayed, they took an hour to get to the hospital that was 5 minutes away. And they passed 2 other hospitals that were equipped to take care of her. Now, she's a royal person, Princess Diana. Why would you take an hour to get to the hospital?
Well, listen, I'm pro this theory. I firmly believe the crown got rid of her. I am just playing devil's advocate.
Right.
Like, I firmly believe and have firmly believed for a while
that she was
murdered. But I think that what you were saying, in France, they do it differently. Yeah. They try to stabilize them beforehand. And I think that one of the things is there was 4 people in that car. Yeah. So they saw, okay, she's okay. And she probably was saying, check on them, knowing her. Yeah. I mean,
well, she was in a coma, and then she woke up, and then she went back into a coma. So I don't think she said much. Okay. Supposedly.
Well, so maybe it was just a matter of, like, stabilization, or she could have been coherent at that time and said, no, check on them. Right. And then she slipped, and so then they had to make sure she was stable before they took her. I'm not a medical expert. I don't know how long that usually takes, but
at the time too. I mean, this is in France. It's different. I feel like,
yeah, exactly. And the fact that it's 5 minutes away. Yeah. First of all, my question is, because I'm not actually sure, and I don't know if you know.
Probably not. We'll see.
Was there paparazzi on site? Were there people gathered?
Well, yeah, at the time, yes.
So it could have been like an influx of traffic as well.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and because some people, like, supposedly there was like this one woman who was interviewed, and like she said, like, when the accident happened, like, some of the paparazzi continued to take pictures, and some like tried to help. Yeah. And I'm like, well, who are the paparazzi that tried to help? And like,
where are those pictures?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if people were that close when it happened and like saw the accident, so I assume that they weren't so far in the tunnel that either people were following them because they saw it, or it wasn't that far in the tunnel and they could see in or something. You know, like, yeah. I don't know. It's just confusing to me. And like, there are some theories, obviously, that they're like, well, in the ambulance, they like made her like wounds worse, and she, you know, died. I'm like, it would take a lot to get, like, people said, and I agree, like, it would take a lot to get medical experts and people to like in on this plot, unless you have absolutely, I guess, no choice if like someone's threatening you, or I don't know. But it would take a lot, I feel like, for someone to
either threatening or they were like, again,
had no choice.
A lot of the theories that I've seen are, they were MI6 plants. They were MI6 plants. So, like, they planted them there.
That's true.
Make them do it.
Like, they were planted hospital people. They were planted. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense.
So that part, if they were MI6, I could understand. If they weren't, that doesn't make sense. I feel like, again, I am on the people's side of this, where the crown killed.
I think she was killed.
But I think that the reason it took them an hour would be the stabilization of it all, realizing who it was, first of all. And then also there could have been an influx of traffic. Yeah. And they also, I know that like some people like have set up, if anything happens, they go to this hospital. Yeah. Like, who is it? Was it Kennedy? Like they were like, hey, if anything happens, we're on standby.
We're on standby, yeah.
So it could have been that's why they passed up the other two.
Maybe.
We don't know. But
it's also 12:23 a.m. So like, would there be that much traffic?
No. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I've never been to France.
Right. But... Well, maybe in Paris at that time, but it's 1981. So I don't know. I feel like some people would be out partying and some people would be like, lots of people would not be though. Cause it was like a Sunday morning, night or something. Ooh. Like it was like either Sunday morning or Sunday night.
Well, then it's an MI6 plant.
Right. Obviously. We just proved it. But anyway, apparently the Mercedes that they were driving, had apparently, I don't know if this is true. Apparently its computer chip had been taken out, which controls acceleration, navigation, braking, and steering. And Mercedes offered to investigate the car, and it was turned down by the authorities. Yeah. So what the hell?
It had been tampered with.
They said, like, we investigated it. Everything seems normal. And they're like, why would they have, like, Mercedes, like, you know, why would they tell Mercedes, no, we don't need it inspected? Like, why? If it was the princess, you think you'd be like, anything that you can do to help, then yes, like, do that.
Yeah. A little suspicious. Yes. Maybe because they didn't want anybody looking into it because they killed her. Anyways.
Some people also say that they saw a white Fiat Uno. You know about this too? Yeah. Man, she knows about everything. And a motorcycle leaving the tunnel, exiting the tunnel after the accident. Now. Yeah. Now, this is obviously... So, it is thought that this car belonged to one of the paparazzi named James Anderson. Okay. Do you know about him?
Like we said, I'm not a name person.
Right. Well, supposedly he owned a white Fiat Uno, which was this car that apparently people saw. And that this man, apparently he told people that he was in the tunnel that night and he had pictures that would shake the world of the accident. Now, this man's body was found in 2000 it was discovered in France out in the woods in a BMW, burned. His body was burned. He had a hole in his head, and so it was thought that it was a bullet wound. However, some people were like, no, it was just from the fire, like it caused. Now, people thought that he worked for MI6, that he was an informant, and that he had, I don't know, he was in on the plot. He was the one who like ran into the Mercedes and then left. So, because he had the same car too. So they found his body. It took him like a month to figure out who the guy was because he was like so burned.
So badly
burned.
They weren't supposed to find out who it was.
Because not only this, but when they went to, which is so confusing to me because they went to question him, the police, and he had proof that he was like 120 miles away from Paris at the time, like 117 miles or something at the time of the accident. So he proved, he would tell people that he had been there. And then when the police came, he said, and he had like receipts and stuff of him being like this so many miles away when the accident happened that night. Even though he had told his friends, like, I have pictures that are going to shake the world. And so
I bet you.
You're like, I got this.
I bet you anything. Those cameras were working and someone erased it, but he got a copy of what was on it originally.
Yeah. So I don't know I have no idea what his like motivation was, like, cause he was also like, you know, he was a paparazzi, but he was like working with MI6, but then he had the pictures and he's like, I'm going to release them. Like,
and then he dies.
And yeah. And they said, oh, it was suicide. He burned himself. And they're like, well, how did he shoot himself and then burn himself? But they're like, well, the burn, like the fire put the hole in his head. It's not actually a bullet wound because he died from carbon monoxide poisoning, which means he was still breathing when the car was like burned. But his wife is convinced he did not commit suicide and that he was MI6 killed him. That's what she believes.
That sounds, I mean, either he was just looking for clout, but if he was if he was saying he was getting ready to release pictures that could shake the world, and then all of a sudden he's dead. Yeah. Yeah. That's something's fishy going on there.
Yeah, there's something. There's also this guy named Richard Tomlinson who apparently changed his story in 2008 during one of the inquests, but like saying he confused the details. But originally he said that this plot that happened in the tunnel and there was like some people had witnessed seeing like a flash of light in the tunnel.
Which is what the camera picked up. Yeah.
Right. He said that this plot was actually something MI6 had proposed to kill like a Serbian president. Like they would go in a tunnel, they would shine a light and it would like flash and like have them, wreck because they are blinded.
They're blinded, yeah.
So like he's like, this is actually a plot. This is like an MI6 plot that I have seen that they were proposing to kill this other former guy, assassinate this other guy. And he was fired from the Secret Service like in 1995. And supposedly, I don't know if this is true, but apparently he was supposed to be, this guy, Richard Tomlinson, was supposed to be on flight 111, the one that went down and like exploded and killed all the people. Like he was also supposed to be on that flight like later on when he like told about this event. So they were also trying to get rid of him. But they said like, oh, when we asked him in the inquest, he changed his story. And I'm like, okay, probably.
What did he change it to?
He said he might have been confused on the details.
That sounds like someone who's being threatened or feels like their life is in danger.
Yeah, like, so he says, yes, this was actual plot that MI6 was proposed to use for someone else. And like when I heard this story of Diana and they said the flashing light, it reminded me of this like plot that they were planning. And so he's like, that's a very MI6 thing to do. But then in 2008, he said he may have been confused on the details. But another MI6 agent who was asked after.
He said he may have been confused on the details after he was supposed to be on the flight that went down.
Yes. Right. Okay. Yeah, I think so. Because when did 111 go down? I don't know. I don't remember. Yeah, I think so because he was supposed to be on that flight and then like he got deported or something. Oh. And he was also like, people going down in flights is also a very like MI6 thing
to do.
So I don't know. So yeah, whenever that flight went down, I'll have to look it up. We'll have to look it up and see if it was after. But like,
listen,
he was being threatened.
Listen, Great Britain, I don't want to be collateral damage, okay? So if you can quit killing off people.
Right?
And just accept that you are humans and you are not perfect. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that people will understand. And it doesn't matter if some people are upset and some people will understand. People will understand. If they're upset about it, they can get over it. It's 2024.
We're better than this.
Divorce and remarriage happens.
Yes.
Like they can get over it.
Yes.
Please don't make me collateral damage, okay? Or Hannah, or anyone.
we're just listen. We got this from YouTube. You go get
no one collateral damage, please.
Oh my gosh. So now one other thing. I know I've been talking for a really long time, but
you're fine.
Mohammed Al Fayed, Dodi's father, was.
Which is Diana's
lover before she died, was saying that it was weird the way that the embalming for Diana happened because obviously she was in France. She wasn't home. England is her home.
Yes.
So they apparently have to have permission to embalm a body in France, like get paperwork signed and get permission in order to embalm a body.
Okay.
The hospital she was staying at, they didn't want to take her down to the morgue because it was like way across the hospital. So they would put her in a room.
So they like risk people like exposure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they put her in a room and like put like dry ice and like made it really cool in there. But apparently it like wasn't enough. And like it was kind of warm there still at this time because it's like August. Ooh. So they decide to go ahead because Charles and her two sisters are like flying in to like see the body. So they decide to go ahead and embalm her. So first of all, her blood is drained. She has formaldehyde in her now.
And this is before
Charles.
Great Britain could get in to do any of like their like
they couldn't do any because when she got home, Paul Burrell talked about it. Like the royal family are usually embalmed.
Yeah.
But they do it with like the royal family undertakers.
Yeah.
And by the time she got there, there was nothing we could do because she was already embalmed. So any tests, any blood work, any things that we're saying like what happened to her, only the people in France would know. And also like they did it before like anyone could get there. And it was fast. Like it was fast.
I understand. Right. Like I'm sure they were like rushing there.
Yeah, like let's preserve this.
Like private jet.
Right.
I understand on the French side that it was still warm and she was like decomposing. But so then like I understand not wanting to risk exposure.
Yeah. But it being Princess Diana, like.
But like if it's.
Yeah.
I need to embalm this. Well, but technically
it's
she
illegal.
wasn't royal.
Yeah.
She technically wasn't royal.
It's illegal to do it without getting permission.
In France.
Apparently, like, a guy, like, a low-ranking, what's he, like, I don't know, a royal person just said, yeah, go ahead and do it.
Because, like, Secret Service or whatever.
Whatever, yeah, I don't know. But, like, the family hadn't even seen her, and you can't, like, England can't now run tests.
Her. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that they didn't, like, try to save any of, like, the blood or anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously they had to have, right? But, like, everything they've done, like, nope, she wasn't pregnant. Nope, she wasn't this. Nope.
But France.
But now they can't do any more tests. So are you sure?
But France has the original blood work, though.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Which is honestly probably better because...
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
but the people in England who actually wanted real answers, I guess, like, what? But the royal family controls everything, so I guess you're right. But
yeah. And they would probably end up dead, but they could always go ask France. You know what I'm saying? Like, they could get
all the information.
Yeah, the information is out there. It's just a matter of finding it. Dang. And being able to expose it before you die.
So
that was morbid. Sorry.
Yeah. No. We are getting morbid here. But so the prediction, I want to talk about that before we finish because it's so long.
So sorry.
But she wrote the letter that you were talking about in 1993 before the divorce, where she said, quote, that supposedly she gave this letter to Paul Beryl to keep.
Okay. That
she said in it, this particular phase of my life is the most dangerous. My husband is planning an accident in my car, brake failure, and a serious head injury in order to make the path clear for him to marry Tiggy, which was a different person. I don't know. Camilla is nothing but a decoy, so we are all being used by the man in every sense of the word. So this, like, she gave this to her butler, though. So, like, it was, like, a kind of private thing. But, like, she had written this, like, he's going to kill me in my car. And she had also spoke to another friend how she said, they are going to kill me. I'm going to finish be finished off in an accident, helicopter, plane, or car crash.
Yeah, I knew she knew something was up.
Yes, and, okay, so this is another thing that's so fishy.
That's wild, though. Sorry.
No, like, and the way that she was like, we're just decoys, and like this. I
realized that I haven't said anything since you said all of that because I've just been like, oh my gosh,
it's just wild. But so she tells her like solicitor, who's like a lawyer, I think. Mm-hmm. She talks to him about these concerns about like the car accident, like how she's scared of this, mm-hmm. like how this is gonna happen to her.
I'm gonna be murdered.
Right, I'm gonna be murdered, and he like writes it in his like handwritten notes, like during the meeting, and so after her death. The lawyer who has these notes from like when she told him goes to the commissioner of the police, gave him a copy of the handwritten notes, gave him a copy of what she said. The commissioner never gave the notes to the French inquiry or the magistrate, which is a crime. If you have any information about a person's unexpected death and you don't turn it in, it is a crime. And guess what? The next guy doesn't turn it in, even after that guy quits. So 2 people just don't give whatever notes. Because if they had given the notes where Diana said, I'm going to be killed, to the magistrate or whoever it is, they would have investigated it as a murder and not an accident. And you're telling me this is not fishy?
What? Yeah. It's like, why didn't they give it to him?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
I would have made more of a fuss about it. Honestly, if I was the person, I would have been like, like they're not investigating this as a murder yet.
I mean, Mohammed Al-Fayed was going on TV being like, this person's not helping me. This person's not helping me. They killed my son. They killed Diana.
Yeah.
I mean, he was publicly like, out to get them. And they were still like.
And obviously, they can't kill him. Otherwise,
that's obvious.
That's proof.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, so these are the conspiracies surrounding her death. Now, some people think she didn't die. And I was looking and looking, but a lot of them are like TikTok conspiracies. Mm-hmm. A lot of them are like, one was like an AI thing, like an altered photo I have right here. Like this is her like proclaiming that she's alive now. And like you can clearly see like this is like an exact same photo of her giving a speech when she was younger. She was
in the exact same outfit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, yeah, the AI face isn't so bad. Like she's older a little bit, but like it's the same exact picture.
Yeah.
So it was like, it's breaking news. Lady Diana has returned and has confirmed that she is alive. This is a photo of her from today, Tuesday, February 13th, 2024.
No.
Yes. So I'm like, okay. Stuff like that's silly.
I saw a TikTok. Okay.
Yes.
And it was this girl who she was like, I used to work on like this private island in this restaurant, and like a bunch of people were there, and I can't talk about like any of the people who were there. I can't tell you who I saw and who I didn't see. It's like very hush hush. It's like this private getaway, which we know private islands are kind of sketchy, but
as we know,
she said there was this lady that walked in, and she had just started whenever this happened. So there's this lady that walked in, and she was British, and she looked like Princess Diana, but like older. And so she said to her, she said, "Has anyone ever told you look like a spinning image of Princess Diana?" And then she laughed and she said, "Oh, thank you." You know, like, dear, like she was very kind about it. And then the manager came over and like gave her to a different table and said, "You can't serve them."
That's weird. I saw one
suspicious.
That was kind of like the same thing where there was this guy who like saw this woman in a hotel with like two bodyguards and was like, "Oh my gosh, you look like so much like Princess Diana." And the lady laughed, and then they like just continued on.
Yeah. And
like there was talk of her like she wanted to move to the States, like she wanted to move to California.
Yeah.
So like to like disappear, and like because she had like someone she had like vacationed with over here. It was like super nice to them, and like they were in California and they were free from, you know, because like in America, like, whoa, that's cool, she's a royal, but it's not like,
but like
she's
not like, it's not like she's gonna be chased down. Yeah.
So I'm just saying, these are now. I don't know if I'm convinced that she's alive, but
I don't think she genuinely is. But like that's a little suspicious that they were like, you can't serve her.
Yeah, I mean, unless the lady was just like, I was uncomfortable with that girl. Like you never know what people are gonna be uncomfortable with. Right. But I don't know. Like I do think kinda that she was killed, but
I think she was murdered.
Yeah, but I don't know if she's still alive. That'd be awesome. Like she's such a cool person, because you said like also like if she was, why would she leave her?
A lot of people had issue with accepting the fact that, oh well, maybe she actually got away, and maybe that's why the things were like, maybe it was like a ploy for like, maybe that's why it took an hour for them to get there, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of people were like, there's no way she would have left her boys to be raised by Charles.
Yeah.
Like there's no way. But then again, like if you're in that, like if you're that afraid for your life, you know that your sons are royalty. Right. You know your sons are going to be looked after.
What can you do? Like take them?
You know for certain that Charles is just going to stick them to like a nursery worker. You know, like.
Right. He's not going to take care of them.
Yeah.
Also, apparently, like he didn't marry Camilla. Well, sorry. He didn't marry Camilla until like 2005.
Oh, he wasn't allowed to.
Yeah. Oh, well, see, I saw that, but some people are like, no, it wasn't because he wasn't allowed to. But is that because the queen didn't want him to?
Yeah, you have to have permission. If you're divorced, you have to have permission
to remarry
as a royal. I'm pretty sure.
We need to like do a whole royal family one. Apparently,
at least that's what I've always heard. Is like if you got divorced, because that's
why do they have to approve.
Well, that's the whole reason Queen Elizabeth is the queen. Her uncle was married, and then got divorced and lost his kingship.
Oh,
and so
it was like a big deal then.
Yeah,
which is so crazy because then there's like King Harry. Is that his name? King Harry? Henry. What am I saying? King Henry VIII, who had like 10,000 wives, and he was the one who like originally like, you know, broke with the Catholic Church so he could divorce.
Right.
And then that became a thing because he had like 7 wives or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Anyways,
guys, we totally
if you know more information about the British royal marriage system, let us know.
Right.
Because some of the stuff we know might be outdated. I don't know. I haven't looked into it for a while. But or if you want to just, you know, share with us some of your theories as to what happened with Diana. Or if maybe you think you've seen Princess Diana.
Oh, you gotta tell us, please. I'm gonna be looking for her now.
I know. Just let us know. You can reach us at lattespodcast@gmail.com or on Facebook and Instagram at Lattes on My Mind.
Yeah, and please be respectful of people's spaces. And if they don't want pictures taken of them, don't be taking pictures of them.
No matter who they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.